Welcome everybody to the video, and welcome ladies to this very special video. Hi everybody, it's nice to have you guys all here. It's crazy how difficult it is to organize everyone's calendars and times. We were meaning to do this actually on earlier in March for actually like Women's Day. There's Women's International Day, I believe it's called, and we thought that would have been a really cool time to do it. But schedules happen and whatnot, but nevertheless I'm still very excited to kind of put this together and get to hear from some of the females in the finance space, which I know is a underrepresented space. I know that from my analytics and the people that watch my videos, and I certainly see that around the investment space. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining today. I hope that this is a really fun chance to talk and chat and for you guys to tell your stories. And we do have a bunch of questions, which I guess we could kick things off. As you go through, feel free to give a little introduction. But yeah, why don't we do this? I think we'll start this off with Joy, which here's up at the top here, top left. Maybe I'll put you up on the screen when you get the chance to talk, Joy. But first of all, congratulations on 20K TikTok followers. I know you're really doing well over there, absolutely blowing up. And the first question that I wanted to ask is, like, what is the reason that you started a TikTok? Why did you put yourself out there to create content and to try to educate others?
Yeah, I remember when I initially started to invest at the age of 19, I felt very alone. Like for me, there was a huge lack of financial literacy. Like for an example, what is a dividend? Or what does capital gains mean? So now when I create content, I keep one thing in mind, and that is, how can I make a video that the 19-year-old Joey would understand? So to answer the question, the reason why I create content is so the most average person can understand it, even if they have limited financial literacy.
Right. And that's because you felt that same way when you were getting started, that it was a bit complex and overwhelming and maybe didn't find the right sources out there.
Exactly.
You're hoping to do that.
Yeah, like I could watch a 20-minute video on how do dividends work, and I would watch the whole 20 minutes and not retain anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think from the comments that I've seen on your TikTok, your audience is really, really receptive to the way you explain, and they really resonate with that. A question I have briefly, this is for you, Joey, but anyone else, feel free to chime in. Do you notice your audience being pretty much entirely females? Is it kind of a mix of both? Like, who are the types of people that you were trying to talk to when you're creating videos?
Yeah, so like I said, like beginner investors where they have literally no knowledge.
Just starting, yeah.
Investment. Yeah, and it's 75% females, at least that's what TikTok says. And they're mostly in Canada because I talk about Canadian stocks a lot.
And
yeah.
is that by design? And maybe for the other ladies, like, do you purposely try to target females, or you're just speaking to 19, 20-year-olds, people who are just starting and they just happen to be females?
Well, I could jump in. I was gonna say, like, I started in 2014, and it was actually because I wanted more women in this space. So that's why my brand's called Financial Nirvana Mama, and it was to empower women to invest. But since I started, like, I find it's still predominantly men in my
Really?
space. Yeah, like I've been this for a long time. I mean, even like as an engineer, same thing, mostly men. Like in many of the careers I've taken up. So, but I just do it like Joey's saying, like I just show up, and I hope that by showing up, having more female role models out there, that would help bring up that, to have more women in the space, because we need it. That, women seeing women helps.
I can relate to what you're saying, Joey, because I have 70% of my followers who are girls too. But something that I've observed is that most of the people commenting on my posts are guys. So it's a lot of girls following us, it seems, but a lot of like the interactions and the comments about stocks or ETFs it's guys. So I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because some girls feel a little bit shy, or maybe I don't know what it is, but I totally relate to your TikTok demographics as well. Like I'm like 70% women as well.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's a fascinating comment about the comments, and maybe they're less willing to chat, but they're certainly consuming it and probably, learning and saving and liking and whatnot, but maybe just less so comments. Well, hey, let me move on to the next question here. Sorry, Joy, I get you here. This is more, I guess, a question in general to anybody that wants to chime in, but what are some of the barriers that you've experienced in finance as a woman? And this could be in the workplace, this could be in investing. Like, what are some of the just general financial barriers that you guys have experienced?
It's a lot of mansplaining out there.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah,
true.
that's a good one. That's a very,
Yeah.
very good one. And that's, yep.
I think
Maybe for those that don't know mansplaining, if we have a bunch of for my viewers, what would you mean by that, Michelle?
Just like they talk to you like, like you don't know anything, right? But meanwhile, I have a math finance degree, and they just, if I say something, they're very quick to like, you know, just kind of debate with you and like, no, 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 it's this, or, oh, that way is maybe not
Right.
the best way, and they just kind of chime in. They're just very opinionated. So it is a bit annoying. So when I first started, like I was in university and I studied finance, so I knew a lot of like the terminology and stuff like that and the theory. But then I remember like joining this investing club and I asked a question, and then there was a lot of guys just just
It's like the
explaining
bro,
things
like
that I
the kind of
read.
like the bro cult. It's like the bro culture kind of thing,
Yeah,
where you kind of think of it in like corporate, like Wall Street. It's like the guy culture kind of is just out there, and it's
yeah,
just is that kind of what you're getting at?
yeah, exactly. And they're like talking to me like I knew nothing, right?
Mm.
And maybe they were being helpful. But I remember even later on, like I was trying to have a conversation with like some other guy, and he's like, you know what, that way doesn't work. And I was just talking about Warren Buffett, right? And he's like, no, his
Mm.
strategies don't work. I was like, okay. But then like it just wasn't very encouraging. So then I'm like, you know what, I feel like I have to do this alone. I don't want to be I don't want to be hanging out with these guys. I just didn't want to be around them. So then, yeah, like for me, investing was a very lonely, I guess, journey. Because yeah, back then there weren't a lot of resources like available,
You,
not a
you
lot
know
of
what
female.
sorry.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
so sorry to cut you off. I was gonna say one thing that jumped out to me, what you just said there, was like the word encouraging. And one thing I get from all of your guys' content is that it is very encouraging and uplifting, especially for these people that maybe feel lonely. And that's I don't know if that's a women thing in particular, but that's certainly something I recognize from all of your different channels and presences. Is it is very encouraging, which I think is really really
Mhm.
special. Shay, you haven't even said anything again. Shay's usually never says anything.
I'm shy. I'm just kidding. For me, it's very interesting because this is like years ago. Before I have YouTube, I was already trading full time, and then I had friends at a time who I really remember this one guy friend who just always called me gambling. And this is like 2016, 2017. But I was already trading full time at the time. But like for me, it's like, okay, I don't care what you think. It's okay. So I've always just kind of stayed in my lane. And then it's only after I started a YouTube channel in 2019, and then the channel got really big in 2020 and 2021. Years later, he slid into my DM asking, "Yo, should I buy this stock or not?" So many
That's
years
so
later,
funny.
I was like, "Well, gambling, dude. Like, what happened?"
What happened? Yep.
The audacity.
He
Yeah,
chased his
but
clout. Yeah, he saw you getting all the clout, and then he wanted to get back, eh?
but it's like I'm doing the exact same thing as I was in 2016, 2017. Nothing has changed. So it's just a lot of times I think it's important for females to like, investors, traders to have at least some presence. So I think it would be good for both genders to understand that, hey, it really doesn't matter whether you are men or women. You can invest, you can trade, as long as you do it the right way and you do it with the right education and you do it with caution, right? So I think it's like I'm so glad like I see so many ladies here. Like it's my first time meeting a lot of you guys too.
It
But I'm
it
so glad
it
to
is.
see
I'm
your faces.
Yeah, It is really special, and like I said, when I don't want to downplay, like it's really cool that we're able to do this. You guys, we all have a connection together, and like in fact, we are all on the Blossom app. FYI, like how we know each other. Well, we're all creators on the Blossom app, which is again like download for free. Download down below, and you'll see a lot of these ladies' portfolios and sharing their thoughts. I can link all that stuff below, but thank you for sharing, Shay. Let's move on to one specifically for Cass, and I like this one. Who managed or handled the money in your family growing up or currently? Obviously, you're an adult now, but yeah, what was the situation there for you?
Yeah, so both my parents worked. So they both had income coming in from their separate jobs, but my dad was the one who managed the money. Like my mom obviously knew the accounts and they kind of share, they share the bank accounts when you get married or whatever, right? But yeah, but my mom was not as involved in that as she was with more like the household kind of traditional kind of gender roles kind of thing, if you can think of it that way. But I thought that this was an interesting question because I never saw, because even though my dad managed the money growing up, we never really talked about it. And it wasn't like something like hush hush either, but it's just that there wasn't really a need to talk about it too much, and especially not about investing and things like that. So I kind of wonder, like, how did I get into this investing thing either? And I think that, like, with people who grow up in families where money isn't talked about, or sometimes if it's even like encouraged to hush, like, don't talk about your salary, don't ask your dad how much money he makes.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Oh no.
Cass. I really liked where she was going there, but
Sorry,
she's
am
back.
I back,
Okay.
guys?
You're good,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're back.
My best friend's calling me. I just rejected her call. Sorry. Anyways, but I think that in households where, like, no matter who's managing the money or if talking about money is encouraged or not, I think that, and especially if it's not encouraged to talk about money, I think that a lot of people have to find their way and learn on their own, right? That's kind of what I did personally. And I feel like no matter who manages your money, like if it was your mom or your dad or whoever it was, like, especially women today, like where we're working now, we're earning our own money, right? And money is something that affects everybody in the modern world today. And so I feel like it's super important just to learn about money as well. So I kind of went off topic there, but I'm really curious to hear about how money was talked about in you guys' household, or it's like it was more male dominated, or I'm really curious about that.
Well, I could say that it's just been
If anyone wants to share.
It's just been me and my dad growing up. So, well, long story short, he took care of his own finances. I took care of my own finances. All I was ever taught to do was to save money. That's all. You want to talk about money? Okay, I'll tell you. Save it. That's it. Well, obviously now, like we all know, there's high interest savings accounts, there's investments, there are GICs, EFTs, ETFs, sorry, and mutual funds. So now, I mean, and I don't blame my dad for telling me to just save money because he didn't have the education that we have now. Like, there's so many resources online you could just go to. But that's just how I've been taught to just save money.
It's like what you said, Cass, it's like the traditional, I can see where traditionally, again, maybe I'm like over speaking, but where the gender roles were more, clear, like not clear, excuse me, but like they were more defined. You know what I'm trying to say? Like where women were like, let's say to raise the children, stay in the household, not to do finances. I think now it's, each and every year that goes by, that's just becoming less and less of a thing. And like you said, women are making their own money, they're doing their own business. And with the access to information, like you said, Joy, there's like, it's very different today than it was maybe 20 years ago. It's just like not just more acceptable, like it's encouraged, and it's, you girls are all playing a part in helping that message and narrative that this is equal for everybody, and you can do, whether you're man or female or whatever, whatever you are, you can manage your finances, right?
Yeah,
I think that's
and especially today where the cost of living is so high. I feel like maybe typically, okay, the man could be the breadwinner if that was how society traditionally was, etc., right? Or even the woman today, right? But even today, it's like, to be the breadwinner of one family, like you need to be making a lot of money, especially if you want to continue living in the GTA or Vancouver area, especially high cost of living areas.
Point.
And so in that way, women are kind of forced to work if you want to, have a certain standard of living, right? And because of that, I feel like I wasn't really interested in money growing up, but I kind of became interested in it because I thought to myself, oh, I need to learn how this money thing works if I want to have a good quality of life. And so, as we kind of move away from more traditional household incomes and things like that, I think it's really important for men and women just to know where their money is going and how to, you know, sustain themselves for the future, right? So that's really where it comes from, where my desire to learn and to invest and save comes from, at least. But
I
yeah.
love I love that. And by the way, for those that aren't familiar, Cass, big TikTok page, which again I can link all your guys' stuff down below so that people can go check you guys out and have more people to follow. But amazing job on what you've done over on the short form platforms. Do very well. And I wanted to kick it over to Michelle, which I really like the name of your brand, the Sassy Investor. Is that one just jumps out to me. I like that, the Sassy Investor. Maybe you can, but before answering this question, elaborate on why that is, what the name you chose. But the question I wanted to ask you was like, when it comes to investing in particular, what do you see differently between men and women? Is there even a difference how we approach things, the way we do things? Maybe a general talk on that.
Yeah, there is a big difference. And I guess like over the years, like working with both men and women and just talking to many people, I just, come to realize, and even like reading, reports out there, women are generally more risk averse. And men do tend to take more risks. And men are more likely to listen to stuff out there and just invest on a whim, right? Whereas women, they're willing to take risks, but they have to understand it first.
More
And I like,
calculated, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, calculated risk. They're absolutely willing to do that, but they're not going to do anything until they know for sure what they're doing and they're confident. So I like to compare them to like both genders. Like I like to compare it by using like an IKEA furniture like example, right? So when we're building furniture, women will look at the book and be like step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whereas men will look at the photo and just toss it away and just go right to like step 6 kind of thing, right? And that's the comparison I like to.
No,
I love that.
That's a very I love that as well. That's hey, that's the first I've heard of that analogy, but that is amazing actually, and it's very very true, Michelle. I was as you were saying that, I'm thinking like when it comes to purchasing, if I'm gonna go buy something on Amazon, like I see it and I buy it, and my wife will spend a week like more than a week to buy the small review. Like it's just calculated, and that's I guess just the difference in impulse and everything. And that IKEA example was another perfect example. I never thought of that when it comes to investing, but I can certainly see how that is actually a very accurate comparison. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And so that's like an observation like I've seen over the years, and I guess it still stands, right? And over the years, as I see, things that come up like people investing in those meme stocks and Bitcoin and all these things, I feel like a lot of the people that kind of jump in and just kind of impulse invest or whatever you want to call it, they tend to lean towards men, right? And then going on Reddit and going on the forums and just listening to all this noise out there, whereas women, if they don't understand it, they're just not going to do it. But it kind of works, like it works against them too when they're just having money sit there and do nothing until they invest the time into learning about how to invest and stuff like that. So that it kind of like balances out. Not taking enough risk is risky, taking too much risk is risky.
Yeah, no, those are some amazing points. That's awesome, Michelle. Tracy, financial Nirvana mama, this one is particularly for you. If you could travel back in time and go back to maybe when you're in your 20s, or I have here, if someone was in their 30s or 40s, how would you have started? And this could be either in terms of your financial situation, like, just overall finance, or investing in particular. Feel free to choose either of those. But, now you have obviously experience that you wouldn't have had when you were 20. What would you kind of tell yourself if you were to go back to that time frame?
Well, thanks, Brendan. I was going to say, I've actually experienced all those decades, so I can actually go back in time and actually, I'm cool with revealing my age.
I couldn't tell, yeah.
Thanks. I was going to say, if I were to go back in my 20s, I was just reflecting on, when I was younger, I was such a cheapskate, only because I also was just broke. And I just thought I could just jump in and learn investing by just reading books. But that's the same thing as saying like you're going to learn a sport by reading books. And I made a lot of mistakes just reading books. So I would say, like, in your 20s, you don't have a lot of money. I would say that probably one of the best things you could do for yourself is to find a mentor, a coach, just like people are finding like these fabulous women on TikTok, on YouTube. Just find someone that you can see yourself becoming, because that's going to really help. And I wish, like, I had more of that. In my 20s there wasn't, and that's why I show up on YouTube, is because I want more females in there. And I would say another thing you could do in your 20s is just invest with whatever money you have, like in index funds, or create your dividend snowball. I know dividends, growth stocks is not like, which are stocks that actually pay out you money like quarterly every year, like the boring banks and utilities. And sure, they don't make a great return, but if you let it compound over time, and especially if you plan to have kids in the future, you don't have to sell your stocks to reap the rewards of the income, versus like just investing in growth stocks, which I also made a mistake of just investing growth stocks like really early, like the Apples and the Microsofts like a billion years ago. I don't know, they haven't existed a billion years. So that's one thing. Those are the two things I would say. 20s, invest at just find a mentor and coach, and then invest consistently in index funds or given growth stocks, or both. And as for 30s, this is probably about the time where you're starting to look for a house or a place to live in. I would say that consider house hacking. I know this is going to be super contrarian thinking. I mean, in places like GTA and Vancouver, it's just almost no choice. But in other cities, it's always like maybe looked frowned upon. You're like, why would you be hacking? Which is means
Yeah.
like you have other tenants paying down your mortgage, and people say, well, don't you make enough to like afford a mortgage? But by doing that, you reduce your expenses substantially, and it doesn't take that much time. That's the biggest thing. It doesn't. So if you're a busy professional and you're planning to start a family, like you're not going to have a lot of time. So that's where I said house hacking is just like a game changer. So, and if you could rinse and repeat this, meaning house hacking, live in a starter home, and then move out, and then keep that home because you saved very well because you had someone paying down your mortgage, and then rinse and repeat that like 3 times in your lifetime, you already have 3 properties just by doing that. And that doesn't take a significant amount of time to do that. And then as for 40s, I would say that because you're probably in a higher income bracket at that time, you've hustled, you worked hard, and you're moving up in your career, I would say, take a portion of the money that you save and invest in yourself every single year. That will really shorten your learning curve, and rather than just learning, you don't have as much time as when you're in 20. So this is the time to actually shorten your learning curve in your 40s and substantially find a coach or mentor to just really accelerate your investing, your financial literacy journey. Anyone want to jump in, add to that?
Oh, Tracy,
Don't
what do
go
you exactly
yeah.
what do you exactly mean when you say invest in yourself? What specifically do you mean by that? Do you mean
So,
like courses, or yeah, I want to know what you have to say.
courses, yeah, for sure. Courses, find a coach,
Mm.
join groups, like be surrounded by someone that you know um, does what you want to do or you could aspire to. Because I feel like definitely, like I found, like as I was trying to find a mentor and role model, and I've been trying to find for a long, long, long time, there's not a lot of women out there. And so if once you find that person that you resonate with and that can help you, like learn as much as you can from that person, read their books or take their courses or take their workshops. This is going to build your confidence as well as just learning, and you'll be able to get feedback.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I love that. No, great suggestions there, Tracy. Here's a question that's not so much, I guess, gender specific, but I'm looking at the variety and the diversification of our different backgrounds culturally, and I know that in different areas of the world, where you're raised or what your parents were done, like I believe it was Joy, you were mentioning you were just taught to save, and not really invest. What are some, if anyone wants to share, like some cultural beliefs that you had growing up? Maybe it was not to invest, it was too risky, or I just was told to save money. Does anyone have anything that they'd want to share on that topic?
I could jump in. I would say like growing up in a Chinese family, like typical first generation immigrant family, I think real estate is a big thing. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, like that was like what I grew up with was like, okay, if you should invest in real estate. Of course, my family had no money, but watching like my relatives who house hacked,
Right.
and were on minimum wage and still was able to like, own a couple of properties over their lifetime. I was like, how come my family didn't do that? But they were big on real rental properties. It was always a common topic, but my
So
parents never really got
would
into
that
it.
and is that, Tracy, in lieu of investing? Like, hey, not like if you're going to put your money towards stocks or real estate, you would allocate that towards saving up for a down payment. That's kind of what you're getting at.
No, they said like if you were to invest, it would be invest in like real estate. It's like
Oh, okay.
because it's tangible. Versus
Right.
like not a lot of talk about never talking about stocks actually.
Same
I
for
don't know
you,
how
Michelle.
how about you
Yeah, I see
guys?
Michelle nodding.
Yeah, it was like a one or the other, right? They are apples to oranges, like in terms of like the types of investments. But then people were always like, "Oh no, stock markets are too risky," and they can't see it. It's not tangible.
Hmm.
Whereas real estate, it always goes up, and all these things, right? But then it's like, no, there's a lot of risks when it comes to real estate. Like I bought a student property when I was in university, right? Like I learned very young. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do this. Like I chose the stock markets, but like I learned from very young that it's a different type of investments. Type of investment, right? It was,
Yeah.
it's just there are risks that come along with it, and it was a market that's not like it was today because I was back in like 2003, 2004, right, where you could actually lose money selling a house in Ontario. So it was always like growing up in a Chinese family, like my aunt, like my family, they owned multiple properties, but they all say the same thing. It's like it's very labor intensive. I hate it. There's so much work involved, but they
Yeah.
never thought about investing in the stock markets because I guess they don't understand it. They prefer something tangible.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah. Shay, Cass, Joy.
For me, since my parents, I mean, our entire family were first generation immigrants. So when we moved to Canada, I think my parents would have invested if they had the money. But for them, it's just they never had any extra money to invest in. They understand investing to a certain degree, but they just never had the money to invest. So yeah, same in my family. Like we were always just taught to not spend money and save money. But I think they would have tried to invest and try to understand it if they had the money. I think that was the thing. Yeah,
I
so I
think
was
one.
never taught investing growing up either. Just
I think one thing too. I don't know. This could be off base, but I also think like let's assume your parents came from China or Asia, Hong Kong, wherever it is. I would assume that the markets over there are probably more shakier and less established in a lot of these different parts of the world than they are here. Like I know, for example, in like South America, a lot of people I speak with come from Brazil, Colombia, and it's just not a thing to invest because it's just too volatile. Again, I don't know if that's fair to say, but that could definitely be where the cultural things stem from. Is like, well, I don't really trust the financial markets over there, but I do trust living in a home, and I do trust having a place to live, and that's kind of what's been passed down, at least possibly. Again, I'm just speculating, but I do think now, again, with the more access to the stock market and just how things have evolved over the decades, I think that it's a pretty even comparable, if you will. Like you said, it's apples and oranges. They're different, but I guess clearly all you ladies do invest in the stock market too, and that's what you do and talk about. So it's cool to see that you guys have, in many cases, do both, or at least open to one idea or the other.
when I was
Go for
When
it, Joey. Yeah.
when I was younger, like when I started investing at 19, my dad actually told me not to invest and
Not to
tell me
invest.
he said, don't do it, invest in real estate instead, But although I was 19, I was thinking, why not do both, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
use the stock market to help you with the down payment.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what I did, right? I bought a condo with my ex-partner like last year, and I believe the sole reason why I was able to have half of down payment is because of the stock market.
Hmm.
So I think it's very important for people to take away that it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can use the stock market to help you with the down payment.
And it's hard because sometimes our parents want to steer us in the right direction, and it's usually because they love us, right? But sometimes, like, you just have to have the fortitude to kind of, respectfully.
You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I know, and like sometimes you just have to have the ability to respectfully, and it's not super, like, investing in the stock market is not super risky as most people assume. But I can see that if someone's not educated on it, then they may assume that. And sometimes you just have to respectfully kind of go against what they are asking of you, right? But usually, they want it's for our well-being, right? But sometimes you just have to kind of go against with what they say in a respectful manner, of course. But I'm not condoning disrespect to parents, but
For
It's
sure.
so
I think
so true.
yeah. Takeaway is that our parents don't know what they're talking about, right?
ever.
That's what I'm hearing. That's what
Or
I'm hearing, Cass.
or friends. I was gonna say, I would say
Yeah.
like being going back in my 20s. I actually had all my friends and I was investing in rental properties and stocks, and they would say, "Oh, why are you doing that? Like you're gonna become a slumlord." And then my
Yeah.
parents are like, "You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't go continue just keep buying properties." It was like really frowned upon what I was doing, but thank God I didn't listen to them. But
Yeah. Yeah, thank God. I mean, that's a lot of people would cater and cave to what the pressures are from either their family or friends. So that's a great little point there. Shay, here's one that I find is an interesting question. I don't day trade, obviously, but from your experience, are men or women better at trading?
I think it's interesting because I think it's similar to what Michelle said earlier. Women take risks too, but men will take, at least in trading specifically, they will take aggregated risk, in which like a lot of people will go all in on the stock when they're trading. And I see a lot of men do that. And women, they're generally a little bit like they'll still take risks, but it's more calculated. Like if they can only afford to lose $100, that's all the risk they do, instead of throwing the entire $5,000 account in there. So that's what I see. But I think in terms of who's better at trading, I don't think it really matters whether you are a guy or a girl trading the stock market. I think we both have equal chances of losing money. That's for sure. But I would just say, like, whoever can take care of the risk and calculated risk and, really understand risk management and have the emotional discipline down can become a successful day trader. So that's whether you're a man or a woman.
Really good point. I think we have just one or two more questions here. And this one I actually really like. I don't know how many of us will be able to speak on this, whether we have a spouse or a partner that we live with. But in general, like, do you have any good suggestions on how to talk to your partner, like husband or wife, about finances, about money, about, how to manage things, joint accounts, this or that? Like, what are your guys' thoughts on this question? This is one of my favorite questions, by the way.
I'm very single, so someone else has to take this one.
I'm single as well, but I think that, or isn't it a fact that, like, 90% of marriages fail because of finances or something like that.
Yeah, I read that stat too. It's really sad.
That's a big
I'm
part.
sure.
There's a big part of the problem. There's probably underlying things as well, and that just kind of exasperates it.
And there's,
Um,
I was gonna say, like, there's also this debate about combining finances or not. And so I've heard that people sometimes are encouraged to meet in the middle where, yes, have a combined account with your spouse or long-term partner, but also have your separate money as well. So I don't know how successful that is, but that's what I've heard.
yeah.
I could jump in. I'm married, so I've been married for like, I don't know. Actually, my husband knows that. He says it's a long time. It's like 17 years or whatever it is.
Wow.
I think a big one is you got to think of it as like a team sport, okay? And just like any sport, you got to know the rules of the game and how to win together as towards a common goal. So for my husband and I, he's not a big planner by any means. But I talk about visioning and planning with him. And by doing that, then we start talking about, well, what does he feel? What's his values? What's his priorities? And of course, I already screened him before I married him, knowing that my values are the same as him. But I would say a big thing is when you do set up with a partner is to really talk about roles and responsibilities and how you work together as a team towards your shared financial goals. Whether that's joint accounts, it could be successful, or it could be a separate accounts, which could also be successful. But for my husband, it was very clear my husband wasn't interested in investing, and I was the big one on investing. So to this day, and it's been a long time, that I still continue to be the person that is like the chief investment officer in the family, and my husband's just like doesn't really even know what's in the bank account, honestly. So,
Yeah.
but it could be different in every relationship. Like in my family, my mom and dad were complete opposite. So I would say really set your roles and responsibilities and start with fun activities like visioning exercise and talking about individual goals and dreams. And then that way you can come up with something that you can work together as a team.
And
Yeah.
just to add to that, I would say exactly that. Just have these may be uncomfortable conversations, just but make it comfortable. You can play like
Yeah.
would you rather, right? Like would you rather go on this massive trip to Europe or whatever, or would you do this, right? Because you can learn a lot about a person based on like those answers. And like you mentioned, it's all about values, right? Like it's it's fundamentally important, not just for like money in a relationship, but just in a relationship in general. So it's through when you're in a relationship, you learn a lot about the person through observation, how they're spending, how they're like their behavior around money. You get to see a lot of it, and I think it's really important for people to be very observant about that. And then you can kind of like you'd be able to kind of project how they would behave with money and how your future will go. Because if you see your partner like just spending all their money and constantly racking up or whatever, like it's not going to be a very like a very positive outlook financially, right? So you can just kind of tell by the way they behave now, but definitely like just having these conversations outright, whether they're comfortable or not, you make it comfortable. You have to, like, if you can't even talk about that, like you kind of wonder what else you can't talk about, right? And that's not healthy.
Yeah.
I think like a really good way to kind of start talking about money and like these values when in terms of financial values is like you can start out small. Like you don't go on the third date and start talking about, oh, should we have a date? You start small with like, oh, you get this one, okay, I'll get the next one. And then it starts talking about, okay, like, do you want to go to that restaurant? Oh, is it too much? Okay, I'll pay for it this time, and you can get the next one. And then you move on to like, as you progress in your relationship or whichever situation you're in, you start talking about bigger things like travel planning. Okay, is this hotel in your budget or our budget? Are we comfortable splitting it? Right, you start graduating into like bigger issues, and eventually you talk about home buying, retirement, investing. Like everyone's responsible for this, whether you are like a man or a woman. You have to at least understand the basics about like how you like what Tracy you said. You're a team, right? How you two together are gonna tackle this situation. So at least for me, for whoever I'm with, they also have to be at least on the same page about understanding finances, understanding the basics of stock market, right? You don't have to be a trader. I think one crazy is enough in a relationship. But like at least have some like basic financial knowledge. I think that's very important. Like I want a team player as well.
I'm
Yeah.
taking notes. So you said go slow, so don't ask them for a credit report on the first date.
Maybe second date. Second date, Joy. It will
I
ask
never
them.
asked that at all.
Okay, I'll write that down.
Credit, but
Noted.
you would know, so I would say like it'd be really hard to tell if I was to look back. My husband always wanted to pay. He's just like the traditional, like I want to pay. But I realized that was because it was on his mom and dad's dime. And then all of a sudden
Oh my
he
God.
graduated from engineering, and then it all of a sudden became his own money. And then I noticed the shift where
Got
it
super
became
cheap.
his own money. Yeah, then he was like way more frugal, but he still paid for things. But he was way more financially responsible, which I liked because obviously I was still dating him, and I realized that shift, and I thank goodness because he was into big brand names. So I would say like, yeah, just kind of realize what they're, maybe why are they spending money? Is it because it's not their own money too? Is a big one.
Yeah. That's really cool. I really enjoyed those insights. It's funny, I was thinking you guys were going to give actual like, practical suggestions of like joint accounts or this, but what I kind of took away from that is like it's not so, there's many different ways to do a relationship finance. It's what's more important is being able to communicate with each other, test things with each other, and like being, like you said, working together regardless of what that way is, and that you can have success in many different ways, but at least that's what I'm taking away from it, if I am accurate on that. Well, hey, let's do one final question here, guys, because we're running up on 40 minutes, and I appreciate everybody's time. I know we got lots of other things to do. This is just a fun one, not so much investing related, but passive ideas for a busy or working mom. And I don't know if we have moms in here today. I don't want to speculate, but yeah, I know how I have a daughter, right? She's 13 months now, and I see how busy my wife is. It's literally a full-time, like, it's new to me. I didn't realize how like incredibly time consuming and challenging it is. It's like more than a full-time job. That said, for everything we talked about today, like trying to like boost the family's finances and have a second income from a wife, there's a lot of different probably ideas in the modern day that could help earn a little extra income. So does anyone have any fun ideas or suggestions for the ladies watching? Fun little ways to make some passive income, maybe on the side.
I could jump in. I'm a mom. I have twins. They're 12 years old.
Twins.
I was gonna say passive income ideas. Make your kids work. Okay. No, seriously. No, they haven't quite worked. Well, in that I do get them to learn how to hustle. So they're into animations. And so I'm teaching them really early that you can make income by doing animations, and you get to add a skill. So they're helping on my YouTube videos. Of course, I pay them, but I mean, to me, it's like it's gonna return back to me one day. And so that's like sort of my passive income idea. My other passive income idea is like they help with household chores. So then you don't have to hire a cleaner. So with that's like just quick fun ways, and you're adding skills for your kids.
You know what I think is so cool about that, Tracy? It almost goes like full circle. How one of the questions we were talking about, like our parents and what they taught us culturally about saving and not investing and whatnot, and that's just how how that was passed down through generations. And like now you're giving ideas to your kids to already start earning extra side, like do a little this and helping with your YouTube. It's just like cool to see how the generations are going to be very different, right? The way you're passing this information, whether it's financial or little getting them working at age 12. I think it's just really, personally, I think it's really cool to see the difference, right? The transition, if that makes sense. Anybody else?
I'm not a mom, but I have a friend. She's a stay-at-home mom, but they rent out their basement suite as Airbnb, and like she runs the entire operation from home, and she makes like an extra $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
So that's like something. If I become a mom one day, I would totally want to do. I'm home all the time anyways.
Oh
I
yeah,
That's a
also-
really good idea.
I also
biggest
know
hack in the life.
and I also know people in my personal life as well who they actually do so they host foreign exchange students, and so they collect maybe $800-900 from students who are studying English here in Canada. They're usually from like China or Japan, and yeah, they
Yeah.
like live in their house and they're integrated with the family life, and they collect some income in that way too.
I had my entire upbringing. I had homestays. Like my mom had homestays, and like like one of the homestays was like my best friend. Like he's the best ever from China. This big, like literally from just mainland China, came speaking no English, and he's like still to this day one of my best friends. So like had a buddy growing up, and there was other ones that came in and out, which maybe weren't as fun. But this guy is just the best, and yeah, that's definitely a way to make income. I had an idea which I just thought about. We just got these photos done for my daughter when she turned 1, right? Like these like, nice photos. There's a cake and like she did all these posing and stuff, and we did it out of another mom's like house. Like they just converted one of their rooms into a studio, and like it was all white and it was like super nice. She bought like lighting, and obviously she has photography skills, but I forget how much the photos were, but they're not cheap to get a thing done like that. Mm-hmm. And that's a little extra income that busy mother. She had like 3 kids, and she was still doing this as a side gig. Like it reminded me of what you said, Shay, where it's still out of the house. It's like but converting a studio in your room into some sort of business idea. But that was one that just popped in my head.
There's also like going to, and I did this myself too, but I know like moms who bring their kids to these. It's doing those commercials and being like an extra. So my best friend, she took her kid to apply to be in a commercial or whatever, right? They'll pay you for your time, and then bonus if your child gets actually featured, they have to pay for image rights. So those can be like, a couple $100 for a day of just sitting around. You do maybe like really like half an hour of posing or whatever, actual work, and then can be a couple $1,000s if they end up being in a commercial or whatever it is, right? So that's a really good side hustle.
That's a fun one. I would have
minimal effort.
Yeah, minimal effort, big one. I was gonna also add like obviously investing in dividend stocks or some type of side in like investing where it actually generates an income. I know it's slow at first, but it compounds, and so you don't have to actually keep working. Literally, you could just invest once and create a lifetime of passive income. So I would say like that was probably if I had to go back in time, that would be the first one I would start with. And then, of course, add the house hacking like Shay is. And until this day, I actually still have a foreign student in my home. And I'm doing this purposely because I want to show my kids, that's the way to do it. That's like, that's how you can generate extra income and be integrated with family. So I purposely do that to show my kids like that's part of life.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's great examples for them. Well, guys, we are coming up on almost an hour here, so I guess unless we have any final thoughts, I think this was actually a really big blast for me. Like I learned so much, and this is not what I usually talk about. In all honesty, it's not that I try not to talk about it, but it's just I don't. And I think it's really cool to hear all of your guys' perspectives. And again, I'll say it again. Like I think it's really cool what each and every one of you guys does. It's if I see another like male YouTuber or TikToker, it's like whatever. But you see you ladies doing it, it's filling a void. So I just want to say keep it up, and I'll definitely include all of your links and your social stuff down in the description for those that aren't familiar. Hopefully this video was able to showcase some more women in the space that I'm sure a lot of new faces to a lot of my subscribers, and I hope the women are. I hope anybody that watched this found this interesting, and maybe you guys can let us know down in the comment section below what you thought and if you know any of these creators. But yeah, I guess unless we have any final thoughts, it's been a blast.
I have one. For every 18-year-old in Ontario, because I guess it's a 19-year-old in BC to open an account, learn to invest and learn it now.
Literally.
That's the take. Yeah. That's a great takeaway. Like that's I think one of the underlying themes that we've all been saying is just like if we can get the ball rolling, get started, there's no reason to not. So no, that's a great
your greatest asset right now is time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
for
compounding,
sure.
like Tracy talked about. Yeah, exactly. No,
It's like
that's so true.
girl it oh sorry, Brendan. I'm just like sorry cutting out. No, I was gonna say it's like I don't know. I love cherries. And I always thought I wish I had a cherry tree in my backyard. And you know, when you're in your 20s, you're like, oh, I have so much time, so much time. But you know, if you planted like a cherry tree in your backyard, by the time you're 50, all of a sudden you get free cherries. And so you don't have to pay for like expensive cherries all the time. So that's the same with investing. You think you have a lot of time, but it takes a lot of time for you to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So plant it early.
I love that analogy. Awesome, guys. Well, hey, thank you for taking the time. I will wrap up here. It was a blast, and I hope we'll chat with you guys all soon.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Wonderful
Thank
meeting
you.
you.